Hello, beloved. It's Monica Bermudez, your host for Ascended Earth, the Transfiguration of the New Human. Welcome back to another episode. In this episode, I would love to discuss the 3 ways to get out of a dark night of a soul. I strongly felt this impulse and urge to talk more about the dark night of the soul, especially with being in the eclipse season. And we have a lot of the eclipse going on. And the eclipse is when the sun and the moon, they, cast a shadow over the earth. And so there is this alignment that occurs with them, with the earth itself, creating certain shadows. So that's why I want to focus so much on it for us, because there seems to be an increase of the dark night of the soul. And some of it may be many tiny ones that last, very short time frame and that get accelerated and released in that moment. Because really what they are is a releasing type of energy. And being in the dark night of the soul is having being casted mostly in the shadow, pretty much. So, and I also call it a personal outage. So, completely being in the darkness in that moment as well. And it also serves to be like a catalyst, but it is a catalyst for like a deeper awakening. And so, I want to just, talk a little bit more about what it is and then get into 3 ways to get out of it. I have become a bit of an expert actually at the dark night of the soul after having experienced tiny ones, mini ones, growing up in several different ways. And also, my biggest, most intense one that lasted so long for many years was after the divorce. And I do feel though that, that a lot of the energy with the eclipse, I was having a mini one actually just recently, but I just let it run through its course inside of me. In other words, just letting it be in that moment of shadow to release whatever was coming up in that moment, to let it filter out of me. And that's really what's happening with the dark night of the soul, is that a lot of stuff is coming up to the surface. A lot of shadow stuff that was hidden, that was at a very subconscious, very deep rooted level, that is resurfacing and is just being purged. And so what it needs, in some ways, it needs some form of attention, acknowledgement that it's there. So not trying to resist it or fight it um, is, one way to work with it. Because if you're trying to resist it and fight it, then it just keeps coming back stronger and stronger. And so, I'll jump into some more of that. But the dark night of the soul is a key, though, to factor, a key factor for the awakening. And there is a lot of that going on, the great awakening that we're in the midst of right now. Um, there was, a lot of that happened during the pandemic as well. And I feel that now, because of the new Earth frequencies accelerated so much more for this year of 2024, that and then with the eclipse is also bringing in a lot of that acceleration, because the eclipse energy is about transformation and change. And so we are also being purged, from a lot of the shadows that no longer serve. So really, it's completing cycles as well within ourselves, and in order to have like a form of reset in us as well, reset for a new beginning, or it's really like a death and a rebirth type phenomena for the dark night of the soul. So, and the awakening though is the same as, conscious expansion. So it's really going deeper into our own self-awareness of ourselves in our divine source essence. And So we know though that there is more to our physical reality. So I can see the dark night of the soul as being like this perception shift. Also like shifting our identity. Um, because what we may have identified as something is also shifting. And so that's why it can feel like a lot of shadow that's coming up, because there is this form of grief that occurs of, if there's a loss to something associated to how we identified ourselves to it. So if, we find ourselves in this, dark night of the soul, I can share, how that feels so you can get an awareness and understanding of it. And so it does, feel like the eclipse is triggering a lot of this. And I use the word trigger, but what I mean with trigger is really an activation. And so we're being activated in different ways, and that could mean releasing certain shadows within ourselves that are ready to be completed in us. And as we're, becoming or evolving more into this new human form, or, being more in alignment with the new Earth's frequencies, which are these higher vibrational energies that are also activating or triggering other codes of layers of DNA within ourselves too. That's also associated to the layers of awakening too. And so, yes, so the eclipse is a triggering point, is an activating point for us. And so I remember like towards the end of 2019 when there was another big eclipse, just like the ones that we're having right now, um, that I went into this other dark night of the soul as well, as I had just opened up this other cosmic mother portal above, the crown chakra. And so through the soul star, and what that brought in was like this accelerated amount of subconscious, very, very deep layers that I guess had been dormant there. So when things are dormant in us, right, our abilities, our spiritual gifts that have been dormant for so long, for eons. And so with that, maybe when it gets activated or reawakened, in other words, or this remembrance, it also unleashes any other shadows or anything else that no longer resonates. And so this is, in that process, what is being, what needs to be released in order to rebirth, resurrect, right? Um, your dormant DNA to reawaken those spiritual gifts within you. And spiritual gifts can be many things, right? It could be um your clairvoyance or your clairsentience or your psychic abilities, your intuitive, sharpening your intuition, being more in connection with your higher self, and making the channel much more clear. So it's like getting a very clear Wi-Fi in us. So that's really what's going on with us. We're being fine-tuned to the new Earth's energy frequencies. And so during that time of that experience that I'm remembering, that I'm sharing this with you, is that that was triggered, that eclipse triggered something very big in relation to the cosmic mother. And it was all associated to like our separation from the cosmic mother, from even our cosmic father. And what felt like, it felt like the eclipse just went in through my soul, because that's really how it felt, and everything was being reshuffled and all the shadow and all the light, the mixture of all these things was coming up. And so, but I was feeling more of this dark night of the soul, where it really felt like there was a lot of deep wounds that were resurfacing for being purged, cleared, and healed inside of me. But it was so deep though that I did have to ask for help from some of my other channeling mentors who do energy channeling, and I had to really ask for that help to help me to put myself back together because it really did feel like I was falling apart. And that's really how the dark night of the soul feels. It feels like you're falling apart. It feels like you're dying. And in a way, though, you're not really dying. You're going through this transitional state. It's a metamorphosis. So you're turning into this, you're this caterpillar that's in this dark, cocoon, right? Because that's really what it feels like. It's complete darkness. And you don't know what's going on. You don't see any of the light. It feels like there's no hope. And so what's really happening is this metamorphosis as well, because that's really what the dark night of the soul is. It's a metamorphosis. So you're really transmuting yourself. And is really like shifting your perception, right, as well, but it's also expanding you, and this there's this death of your old identity, and there's this renewal of this whole new self-awareness, right? And that being deep into your own source essence, divine essence, at the core. And so with that, that's, the dark night of the soul feels like there is so much, it could be very emotionally draining and painful to the point that you just want to spend most of your time sleeping or resting, and you can't be around others or any other places for that reason. And so what really, triggers it as well is when we're going through some major transformational changes in our life. And some of these events could be like a divorce, could be a major breakup. It could be, a death, like you've had many deaths in your life of very close friends or family, even pets, all of those things will trigger certain amount of dark night of the souls. And sometimes it could go very deep, it could go for a while. And, there's moments that you may feel okay, but other times, it just feels like complete crap. And so, so really it is like this, like really being this caterpillar in a cocoon that is ready to be blossoming into this butterfly. So you really are transforming into a butterfly in this cocoon. And actually, I was just feeling this strong urge, right, to, rewatch the movie, Alice in Wonderland. Um, 'Cause that's really like the movie's all about awakening, actually. As she, goes through like falls through a rabbit hole, like literally, and she ends up in this whole other world. And so I was really watching the part where I was watching the one that's from 2010, which is the one with Johnny Depp. And I remember like in one of the scenes when she was talking to, I think the person who was gonna propose to her for marriage, the girl, who's Alice. And so she noticed that he had a caterpillar on his shoulder. And so the caterpillar, right, there was definitely like this symbolism that she was seeing that she was going through this complete transformational change. And so she was having like this form of awakening going on in her. But in a way, she was kind of like in this dark night of the soul too, because she didn't know like how to identify herself. Everybody kept telling her to be a certain way. And, that she had to marry this person for society reasons, for, all the reasons that, were put in place for society as far as like marriage was concerned. And so her image was based on what society thought of her. And so, in a way, then when she saw that caterpillar on his shoulder, that was a sign from the universe that it was time for a change, a transformational change that was really happening within herself, that she ended up falling into a rabbit hole, into this whole other world. And in that whole other world, really, she was tapping into her own soul. And what resurfaced was this whole rebirthed person. So it was this whole new, different perception of herself to the point that she could actually say no and that she could, make the changes in her life how she felt within her own heart. And so that was really, the basis, a lot of, what there's a lot of symbolism to the movie, right? But that's really what, I took away from that, was how related it is to the dark night of the soul that, we're talking about here, in relation to also the caterpillar and the butterfly, the metamorphosis, that we're all going through. And, of course, it's so uncomfortable, right? And so emotionally draining and painful to go through it. Um, so that's for the reason why I want to share these three ways to phase out of the dark night of the soul and not feel so alone. But, these are some suggestions to take away. And these are techniques and tips, that I use myself and that I still continue to use, because it is a continuous maintenance. It's not something that you just do like one time and it's done. It is something that you have to keep, working at within yourself. The nice thing about these new Earth energy frequencies is that now it gives us a space to really accelerate with the energies. Though when we put, some of the effort in, it just quantum expands it even further for us. So we don't really have to wait, all those years and days and so forth. But there is still some level of work that we have to put forth. And part of that is also our own willpower, the willingness to want to do it, right? You can't expect a change for something if you don't have the will for wanting it or the desire to really, want it. But, if it's just there, like, just to say it and not have the will, then it's not going to create anything. It's just, going to be stagnant pretty much there. So the number one thing to do, which I did so much of when I was really deep into my dark night of the soul, especially after the divorce, was to really spend as much time as you can out in nature, and more specifically be around more trees and plants, and also just apply a lot more breathing technique. Like, I know that we breathe a lot, but actually just intentionally do like breath work. So really taking in a deep breath and just releasing deeply as well, and doing several of those. Maybe do like about 7 or 9 times, and just really intentionally feel into the airflow of your lungs and in every cell of your body, and really tapping into the energy of the tree itself. And it will feel like, if you go for like really long walks, for example, or for a run, you could really feel like you're naturally high. So what it does is also creating some of the endorphins within you. And the endorphins are these natural chemicals that we release inside of us. And they really are natural happy drugs. And so the more that we do that, this is scientifically shown through many studies of, the endorphins. And so the more that you do that, the more that it will also start to phase out a lot of this dark night of the soul, but really shifting into your own metamorphosis and shifting your perception and looking at things from a different perspective in a different way. So the number two thing also to do is to keep rose quartz crystal with you. I wore a lot of the rose quartz crystal, and I still do. And, whether it be through the necklace or through bracelets, I would wear, a lot of the crystals on my wrist as a bracelet. And also keep, a crystal with me. So if you go to like an office location, try to have some with you or carry with you in your pocket if you can. But really just keep some of it, with you at all times. They make perfect companions, and also set an intention and talk to your crystal, because crystals are really our friends. They're part of Earth, part of nature, because we're all part of nature as well. And so just set an intention with the rose quartz and talk to that rose, rose quartz crystal, and ask for healing or support in something very specific. And the crystal will, help you in that way. So you'll have this bonding and also companionship as well with one another. And the last thing to keep in mind is also, having like fresh roses. And if you can't get fresh roses, then just try to get some of the rose essential oil. Or maybe if you can do both, the aroma or the smell of the rose frequency is very uplifting, very healing to the heart. And that's why I always surround myself with roses through fresh roses and a lot of the essential oil, which I usually try to put on myself or I try to just smell it, have the smell around me, the aroma of it's a very uplifting energy, frequency energy. Um, so it's almost like it stimulates those endorphins in you as well. So these are all just perfect, complements for one another that, key formulas actually to really help you to phase out of that dark night of the soul and just keep at it, keep doing it on a daily basis. But these were very key for me to really shift and transmute a lot of layers in myself when I was going into my deepest dark night of the soul. And even when I have, the mini ones as well, that, I also apply these techniques. I still continue to use these formulas in myself. And most of all, just give yourself the break and the rest that you need and just surround yourself also by people who really uplift you and encourage you and just give you the support that you need right now in the space as well. And those are the true friends in your life who really understand you and resonate with you, and they can be your soul tribe. So being around people who get it, with all of these changes. Well, I wish you all the best and that you shift out of this, dark night of the soul. And so just hang in there with all the changes going on right now. So I will see you on the new earth. Bye for now.